I'm Jeff Cassman. This is Catholic Men of America, and today we've got a special guest. I'm with Drago Dimitrov. Hey, Drago.
Hey, Jeff. How are you doing today? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you. So we're trying to stay warm here in Nashville. Winter has arrived. Where are you calling in from?
We're in San Diego, and we have some nostalgia for the snow. So, enjoy the snow that you have, if you have snow. We don't have any of that.
I was talking to people just north of us, and snow has arrived in large quantities, even like in Louisville and Indianapolis.
Okay.
A lot of snow. So anyway, we're grateful to be where it's not snowing at the moment, and we've got some exciting things to talk about. You have an interesting background, and you've got a great project that you're working on that I think Catholic men are going to enjoy. So why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us a little bit about where you're from and your family.
Yep. So I was born in Bulgaria, and I moved to South Bend, Indiana when I was 5. So I immigrated to the United States. Now, my mother, she came through a Disney on Ice traveling show. So even though my mother, she had a master's degree in journalism, she was kind of set up in the city, metropolitan Bulgaria kind of thing. But to chase the American dream, which I guess back then there was a stronger concept of the American dream. She moved. She came through the Disney on Ice show, selling concessions and toys, snow cones, things like that. And so for the first 6 months in America, I traveled on the road from hotel to hotel. And obviously, she realized we can't keep doing that forever, obviously. So we settled down in South Bend, Indiana, and so that was with her. I grew up with her, single parent household, and then soon, because the public school situation was not ideal, very quickly went to a Christian school, private Christian school, K through 12, 14 kid graduating class. So super small, everyone's in each other's business, but you really value the meat and potatoes of life, the relationships, and but it was a Protestant evangelical school. So that's a whole, I could get into all that aspect, but after that experience, got accepted to the University of Notre Dame. And at the time, as any good evangelical, I was thinking, God, are you sure you want me to go to a non-Christian school with all these Catholics? They just sin all week, and they think, I'm just going to confess, and I'm going to go on and keep living the way I've been living, because, that's how it works, right? And where's their personal relationship with Jesus and all this kind of stuff? So that kicked off a journey, 5 years of discernment. And there's a whole saga in that, but became a Catholic in 2016, and 2018 got married to my wife, who I met at Notre Dame. We got married. We lived in New York City, did the Wall Street thing, and went to Chicago Booth for business school, and then in San Diego is where I am now.
So I'm going to have to ask you to back up a little bit.
Absolutely.
How do you go from being kind of an anti-Catholic Baptist type, and then you're going to Notre Dame, which is not exactly a great place to see the best examples of Catholicism. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
So what my school did well was, sure, it saturated me in the Word of God, the Bible, and it even had an apologetics curriculum. So I was always questioning the worldviews. We had postmodernism, scientism, atheism, and the Christian worldview. So there was always this encouragement of asking questions. And my exposure to Catholicism was actually very limited. I mean, there would be an occasional throwaway comment of, works-based salvation, this, that, Catholics, almost like this dismissive thing, but it was never a focal point. I just assumed it was obvious that Catholics were wrong. I mean, duh, I have the Bible. I have Bible class every day. I know my Bible. And so there was that blind spot. Now, the other thing I started to notice was, as I was getting into high school, there was the deep debates of Calvinism and Arminianism. And we even had new pastors take over, and they came in hardcore reform, making it seem like, listen, we're going to show you the way. You have your theology completely messed up. Now that we're here, here's how you need to think about it. And so that I really struggled with that, for example, and it kind of planted the seed of, well, wait a minute, you can use the Bible to support conflicting systems of theology, and it's not immediately obvious which one you choose, because depending on which verses you elevate as the overriding principles and use as the primary lenses, you can be a Calvinist or you can be an Arminian. It just matters how you emphasize things and where you place the weight. So those are some of the cracks, but you know, I was not a Catholic. Yeah, I was going to go evangelize the Catholics, if anything. Now, I got into Notre Dame because my mother worked there. That partially helped, and I was the first student from my school, and maybe in all of the school's history, the only person to get into Notre Dame, or at least within the last 30 years. You know, maybe someone before that. So I'm like, even though I was very concerned and anxious about going to an institution, because yeah, I wanted to stay in a Christian kind of environment. I recognize, you know what, there's something important here. There's something valuable, and you know, and God's calling me to do it. So let's do it. And you know, it's there's so many layers to this. But if I were to try to summarize, and we can peel back as deep as you want to, I have no problem. I love doing this stuff. But it started with I encounter people who love Jesus. So Notre Dame, I actually met Catholics for the first time, and there were some who loved Jesus. I said, okay, they love Jesus. They're a little confused, but at least I can tell they're sincere. And then it just one question after the other every time that I try to refute the church, because you know, here's Drago, this young smart guy who's going to refute the 2,000-year church. Easy peasy. I would fall back on my butt and be like, oh my gosh, I thought I could refute them. Maybe it's not as crazy as I think, but it's still wrong. You can make a consistent system of Catholicism, but they still have it wrong. And then just one step at a time. You know, it's like moving from 10 out of 10 certainty and rebellion to 9 out of 10 8. So at some point, you're just straddling 50-50. And then it became 51-49, where I'm like, I'm leaning, you know, I think this Catholic thing, if I'm trying to take a fresh start without any of my programming, how would I really assess the evidence? And there were so many pillars to that, but it just, my heart kept getting pulled towards Catholicism, and I had no choice to convert.
Was there any moment or topic that kind of made the difference, where suddenly you felt like that pendulum, you know, leaning, swinging? Is there one thing that you remember?
Yeah, so there's, I would say, a couple of different pillars, because you know, there's like the psychological barriers, there's the intellectual barriers, emotional barriers, all that. So well, even on the emotional side, I will say this: as I was feeling the Catholic Church pull me, I remember saying, well, God, I know I've had real experiences with you. I mean, maybe, you know, you can even say supernatural and real experience of the Holy Spirit. And so if I explore this Catholicism, does that mean that my faith was a lie? Does that mean that everything was just, I was deceived? And then he reassured me, say, no, like that, I was still there. That was still me. You're just opening up to the fullness of the faith. And so there's a couple of aspects. One is the overriding principle of, look, like if I approach this fresh and I had to evaluate the systems, you know, Catholic Church, Orthodoxy, Protestantism, what would I realistically choose and why? And if I was alive 1,000 years ago or at any point in history, what's the probability that my inventory of beliefs about Christianity would be identical to my current inventory of beliefs 2,000 years later? I said, well, 0% chance I would believe the same thing. So now I have to acknowledge, okay, an earlier Christian Drago would have believed different things. What are those things? And which one's better? Do I make the assumption that now I'm more enlightened and sophisticated and I have a better version of Christianity, or do I lean towards the earlier Christianity? So those are kind of like guiding pillars that would gnaw me. And then also the integration of not only these ideas of the faith, but life, real life experience. And so I will say the integration of mind and body. So from an evangelical perspective, you know, when we say we fight the flesh, it becomes very much a fight against the body itself, as if oh, this flesh is just weighing me down. And don't get me wrong, we have the concupiscence, of course, to deal with. But when you really look at it, you say, well, wait a minute. God made angels, and then he decided to make embodied fleshly beings, us humans. He created Adam and Eve. He created the earth, physical matter. He said it was good. he, in the Old Testament, he had these physical rituals with the senses. You're slaughtering a lamb, there's blood, there's incense, there's bread, all this stuff. And he's incorporating the physical world very intentionally. And I mean, heck, the incarnation, God said, I'm going to take on body for himself. So there's a real goodness in the body. And then even when we talk about the new covenant, do we think that God did a 180 and just said, hey, the body was just some temporary vehicle to get you to realize things, and now we can just do the spirit thing where you're closing the eyes and whatever? Like, no, that seems kind of a little incoherent. That doesn't really seem consistent with the nature of God. And so it was these type of questions that kept driving all the micro level questions where you get to Mary, the Pope, the saints, like all the usual stuff. But those higher level lenses just kept me connecting the pieces. So lastly, I'll say that it's the integration where I don't feel like I'm divided. Like, here's Drago in the faith, but there's the Drago on Wall Street, and then there's the Drago who's, you know, with science and all this stuff. Like the Catholic Church really unifies the entire life operating system, if we could call it that. And so, yeah, that's how I would summarize it.
So you converted, you got married, you've got a child or two?
2 children now. Yep. My youngest is 3 months. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did you do on Wall Street?
So on Wall Street, okay, so rewinding back to college. So I was like, well, what do I do? I mean, I did not have a career plan. I mean, again, I went to the small school. There was no college prep. I even thought I was going to be a pastor or a professional poker player, just to give you context. So this was not like one of these other ways of growing up where the parents get them on the treadmill, starting at the best preschool, then the kindergarten, and then they're doing all these things, blah, blah, blah. I did not have any of that. But you know, I get into Notre Dame and I'm like, all right, well, I like philosophy, I like theology, this kind of stuff, but maybe I have to be practical. And I have some entrepreneurs in the family, and business skills seem very versatile. So why don't I get a business degree? And then, oh, what kind of major? There's many things you could do. Well, finance. It seems like all the aggressive, hyper-competitive people are doing finance. And I think I can cut my teeth and do that. So I'm like, all right, finance and economics, double major. So this is my mindset. And it's like, okay, well, then what's the next track? Like, to get a good job, you got to go into banking. And if you do well in banking, you go in the buy side and hedge funds. Now, I quickly realized, I'm like, dude, this 110 hours, like whatever banking lifestyle, it's not going to go well with me. I know it's going to be impediment to my faith just because I'm not built out for that. So rather than get all the banking internships and stuff, I went for like the big stretch of like, can I get into the buy side or do some other job directly? And yeah, by the grace of God, and a priest helped out, I got my internship in May, right? I mean, everyone else had their internships back in October. So down to the wire, a couple of weeks before the summer, got an internship at a hedge fund. It was a structured credit hedge fund, leverage finance, CLOs. So basically all these big companies raising money, and they raise $500 million, et cetera. I have to evaluate them. Do we invest and lend to them? And so got my job with them after graduation. And then this was just outside of New York. And then in New York City, worked with another company, big, they had $1 trillion assets under management. And then our team had, like the CLO team had like about $1 billion. And it was a lot of fun. You know, you go to these meetings with these CEOs. I mean, we like Uber CEO, PetSmart, Chipotle, and you go and you listen to the pitch deck. They do a presentation at these fancy hotels, and then I like to ask the questions on the earnings calls because that was like a fun challenge, and maybe I just wanted to hear myself talk or something. But I challenged myself to really grow it professionally, and so covered 45 different industries. Like usually you get assigned to, hey, you're going to be the energy guy, you're going to be the healthcare guy. For me, they gave all the complex deals, the miscellaneous stuff, and they gave me exposure from everything: the technology, retail, healthcare, power generation, like all of it. And so I actually wrote a book about that experience. What is this? The book is What Does This Company Do? Understanding a Business and Its Risks. So I published that book with that experience. Then I'm like, but you know what? something's missing. I like this, but and we can get into that pivot. But I went to the quick and dirties. I went to business school then in Chicago, and then we can, if you want to explore that. But that was my Wall Street saga for about 5 years.
And did you leave that to go to Chicago for the MBA, or did you do the MBA on the side?
Yeah. So right when COVID hit and we got out of New York, and it was funny because we took the bet. We're like, dude, this is this seems pretty significant. The offices are going to close. But my employer is like, no, we don't have plans on closing. We're going to split the workforce 50-50. So half the workforce will be in the office for a week, and then the other half and alternate. And my in-laws were really pushing, hey, come out to San Diego. Like, we'll fly you out, whatever. This is going to be big, COVID, whatever. We're like, okay, I had like 3 weeks vacation. So I'm like, fine. My boss told me though, dude, like, if you run out of vacation, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to come back to New York, or, this is just not going to work. Needless to say, as people think about what was it like when I was in COVID, right? I mean, if people listening remember what that was like, what was it like 10 days later, everything kind of shut down. And so then, but I was applying to Chicago in the meantime anyway, to the business schools, and not just Chicago, but I tried to get into some of the other ones as well. And yeah, was ready for the pivot away from the what I was doing back then.
As you tell the story about your COVID experience, I'm reminded of how different it was based on where you were in the country.
Yeah.
Those of us here in the deep South and in conservative states, life didn't change very much. I mean, there were a few days or maybe a week, I remember, where there was a little bit of panic in some places, but if you lived in a red state, in a rural red county, life kind of went on.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder of how local life is in the United States in many respects. Of course, we have great examples, Detroit among them, of the opposite. So you went to Chicago for a year. Let's talk about what I really want to get into today. And I appreciate the background.
Sure.
But what I really want to get into today is your current venture.
Yeah.
Holy Habits. Give us the overview, and then I want to hear kind of the background, how that came to be.
Absolutely. So at Holy Habits right now, we help Catholics move from this state of their faith where they're kind of wandering around and going through the motions and maybe stuck in a perpetual cycle where they just, maybe are falling and struggling with the same things that they have been, moving them from that state to a state of intentional forward progress and a plan, kind of excuse the cliche, but really to level up your faith, to become a saint. Because there's, when we enter the faith and relationship with Christ, there's a roadmap where we become progressively more like him. And if it doesn't feel like we're doing that, then something's not right. And so we're helping Catholics re-engage and get plugged into that roadmap using the best technological tools available out there. So the most innovative stuff that's ever been released for the public, we're incorporating that into faith formation. So it's a spiritual formation app for Catholics.
There are a lot of people getting into the Catholic space, and you've got some competitors in some respect in terms of people trying to use technology to help Catholics become better Catholics. What was the background for this app? What was the starting point for you when you said, "Hey, I want to do this thing"?
Yeah, so there's a starting point from my perspective, and then also with my co-founder's perspective, and then how we intersected. So from my perspective, I've been praying for a while, God, please give me something to do where I can use my skills. I mean, I've developed these competencies in certain areas, and I want to promote your kingdom. And I think there's a unique intersection here. There's something that I can do that maybe, you've equipped me to do through the experience. And part of that is maybe this nudge of when I wanted to be a pastor at the back of the small school, right? I always had this mission desire for God to do something more, meaningful, right? Because life is short. I don't want to waste my life. I don't want to come at the end of my life and be like, well, what did I really do? So that I was praying for that. Now, in the meantime, right, because my co-founders are Dan Burke and Nathan Pinto. So Dan Burke is this powerhouse authority in spiritual direction. He runs spiritualdirection.com. He has the Avila Institute, many books. People who know Dan Burke highly respect him. I mean, he does great work for helping people be deeper in the faith. So him and Nathan, they started Seek Direction. It is a matchmaking service to get you a spiritual director. So if you need a spiritual director, you can go to Seek Direction. And what they found is there was a huge supply and demand gap. So with $0 of marketing spend, and you can appreciate this with your background, $0 of marketing spend, we had 3,000 people sign up looking for a spiritual director. And then we had a network of 300 directors on the platform through the institutes. And so it's like, wow, this is phenomenal, taking off. And so there's clearly a need there that's being witnessed. And also you see in culture, there's this pivot, even among secular people, a pivot towards virtue, wanting a challenge. The people are done with this nihilistic, nothing for you life. There's a call for challenge and adventure. So there's this kind of trend. And so to bridge the gap here in spiritual formation, because not everyone's ready for a spiritual director, and people don't even know what a spiritual director is. A lot of Catholics don't. There's this opportunity to open up a spectrum of accompaniment so that you're not doing faith completely alone, do it yourself, lone wolf cowboy, right? And now we can use these tools and leverage the treasures of the church, because there's so many of them and they're just sitting on the shelf. I mean, we want to deploy the treasures of the church, make those easily accessible, and also leverage behavioral science principles. So I do have a background in behavioral science. And so it's a combination of getting people exposed to the treasures of the church and then using behavioral science, nudging, habit formation. And that emerged. And yeah, when I had a friendship with Nathan, and for him, this was this aside concept, which started out as just this habit tracking for Catholics. And then I kind of took it. He needed a CEO. And so I took it, went full time, and kind of really, we've made it an overall sanctification platform and spiritual formation. And we have a lot of tools in there to help people.
Every businessman knows that it's important to track what matters.
Yeah.
And yet it's a relatively new thing, at least it seems to me, in spiritual direction and spiritual growth, to track these kind of spiritual metrics. And that's a big part of your app, is to set goals, to track things, daily logging and so forth. Walk through that a little bit with us, so we can kind of understand the inner workings of the app.
You see a lot of people today obsessed with the macro optimizations, like I'm tracking my carbs, my protein, my sleep cycles, my heart rates, doing the glucose, like all of that, right? And that's great. I mean, physical health, of course, is important, but imagine if we took our spiritual health just as seriously, which is not to say to become overly scrupulous and not in like an unhealthy way, but there's a certain diligence that benefits us, even with the basic Examen. And we have that in the app, by the way. We have a voice-guided Examen in the app where you turn it on and the voice will walk through the stages of the Examen. It's like, where did you notice God at work today? What was the struggle that you encountered? What grace are you asking for? And so to start being more contemplative and attentive to the day, and am I living out the habits of a faith and becoming a saint that I need? Now, well, what are these habits? What do you mean? What are the habits? What do I do? Well, our app will actually, based on assessments, based on different interactions you do in the app, it will curate the goals for you to do. So, for example, I remember one of my first set of holy habits that the app generated was when I was busy and my wife was pregnant. I'm sorry. You might have to cut this out. I think my son was yanking on my.
No. That was me on the website.
No, there's someone yanking my door. I think it was my son. Sorry, it was my son. I'm so sorry for that. You love the family life. So, what habits did the app generate for me? The habit was, well, Drago, you're busy. You're not spending enough time with your wife. So each day you need to spend 30 minutes uninterrupted time with your wife. For example, like that was my holy habit. And I have different ones, but so we do a diagnostic in your spiritual growth, your current state. We help you find your root sin, which, in the Bible, there's the triple concupiscence. There's lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life. And so, we can talk about what those are, but we each have all three of those in us, but one of those is going to be a little more prominent than the others. And so anyway, we help you know yourself better. We give you a plan for what to do, and then we help you execute on that plan. And so that's we have those habits, but you can create your own habits. Maybe you already know what you want to do. You want to assign yourself the goals, and we'll text you the reminder. So whatever you want, you'll get a text message, or you can create an accountability group or join one. And so if you're leading a group of people and say, hey guys, we're going to do the Bible study here. We're going to do our fitness goals. Or we have these big public groups as well. You can join and participate with other people. We have that accountability in there as well. So there's a lot of ways to get plugged in on this intentional journey of faith.
One of the things that you said that really stuck with me when we were first talking about this was that this was an app for serious Catholics who were dedicated to becoming saints. And that really stuck with me because I think that there are, among the few who are really serious about growing in their spiritual life, but maybe overcoming vice, among those few, there are a lot who commit to, habits. I'm going to say the rosary every day. I'm going to go to mass every day. I'm going to go to weekly confession, or I'm going to do a nightly examination of conscience, or whatever it might be. We Catholics seem to be pretty good about identifying those things, or we're being told to do those things by spiritual directors, or we've read about them, and we do those things. But kind of the stepping back, big picture of my goal is to become a saint here on earth. I don't know that I've ever heard someone say that to me before. I mean, I've heard people say all sorts of kind of variations of that, like I want to grow in holiness, or or this year I want to overcome the vice of. Okay, but like just stating it out loud, I don't think in all my. I'm 50 years old, and I'm a cradle Catholic, and I've been around serious Catholics my whole life.
Yeah,
I'm fortunate to have some great mentors, and I've never heard that. That was really great.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that affirmation on it, and that you're emboldening me to really charge forward with the message, because it's the truth. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know. I mean, we can analyze why in culture, is it part of the Protestantism? Is it part of the secularism? What is it that has disconnected us with this notion of becoming who we were meant to be, which is, a saint, fully perfected in love and truth in Christ? Because you hear that, and there's a cynical aspect that feels like, a saint. It's like it's weird. How did that get into our blood? But like, no, if we read the scriptures, and Christ expects us to be perfect, and it's not just like, this uphill battle where it's a loser's errand. Like, no, he gives us the Spirit. Like, he wants us to do, like, he is there to give us the gifts. Ask and you shall receive. Like, for every step that I need to take to climb the mountain, I'll just have to ask Christ, and he will facilitate. The Spirit will provide that for me. So it's not like this white knuckled, thing that's guaranteed to fail, but Christ gives us real life, eternal life. The Trinity lives in us, equips us with the gifts of the Holy Spirit to do this work, to build virtue and become a saint. That's a real thing. This is not like some abstract, distant idea, but he wants us to do this. And so, the other thing is like, look, what a good knife does. A knife is good for cutting. An eye is good for seeing. A heart is good for pumping blood. Well, what's a human good for? Like, what are we good for? What is a good human? What is a human supposed to be? It's to be to know the truth and a will that conforms to love. So it's to increase in contemplation of the truth of goodness and beauty, and to form our will to desire goodness and love. And so this is if we're trying to become self-actualized, the best version of what it means to be Jeff or Drago, right? Well, it's Saint Jeff and it's Saint Drago, and there's nothing better you can do than that. And so, yeah, that's the goal. And again, it's not this Pelagian thing where you're doing it off your own efforts, but it's this cooperation, this participation in the divine light. And concretely, we also have a lot of contemplation there as well, where the app will nudge you to pray and reflect on things with the Lord in a very personalized way that's specific to your state in life, to the things that you care about, to your relationships, and it's meant to be a companion to guide you on that journey. And obviously, I should say, you should have a spiritual director and a priest. I mean, that's the ultimate. We need the real relationship. But for those who are not doing anything right now, this is a step in the right direction.
What can a new user of the app expect when I sign up? I'm going through that process. What can I expect?
Yep. So when you sign up, we have premium and we have free, but we let everyone try premium for 14 days for free anyway. And for Catholic Men of America, we'll work on. We will have even a special opportunity for Catholic Men of America. But you get in there, and so in the centerpiece of the app, it's the Holy Hub, and this is where you have all the toolkits to help you out. But to unlock the Holy Hub, you do the spiritual growth assessment, because that's really important so that the app can kind of customize and tailor its experience to you. So you can do that, and in there we have confession logging. We have saintly insights, so you can get insights inspired by the teaching of the saints. You can get the daily examen, voice guided daily examen. You have a daily grace check. I mean, you have a lot of tools. I could do the whole laundry list, but so that's in the Holy Hub. Now, there's also the social component of the app. So in the social component, and that's free regardless, you can find a group, create a group, invite people. You can keep your group private, or you can open it up to the public. You can join the challenge. So I don't know when this is going to air, but we are in the middle of the Advent challenge. We always want to have a challenge running there. And so that's what I would do. I don't want to overwhelm or overexcite people. Just take one step at a time. But I think you're going to like what you see there, because we make it very personalized for each individual.
I know that you're always tracking things. We talked a little bit about some data when we were first talking about this, and tracking usage and so forth. What are mistakes that people make when they're trying to use the app? Do they get overwhelmed? Do they try to do too much? Do they set goals that are too big? As we wrap it up here, what are some things to kind of be aware of?
I think a mistake could be, depending on your personality, to assign yourself too many goals. So maybe you should just start with one, or maybe three. It's very quickly you start joining different things. You can have 10, 15 goals. You get a text message of like, here's like the 15 things. Now, for some, look, if you're the kind of person that needs to cross everything off the list, right, then that's directed towards that kind of person. Now, it's funny, my co-founder and I, Nathan, we have different personalities. So like for him, he needs to clear the list, and otherwise it's going to bother him. For me, I don't mind having a longer list, because for me, even looking at the list is enough of a visual reminder of like, hey, this is kind of who you're aiming to become and participate with God. So even if I don't do all my things, the fact that I get a text message of, here's the list, like this is who, your plan of life, I don't mind that. So just realize what kind of user you are, and then keep that in mind. And of course, we're going to try to make that easier for you, so as not to make any mistake like that of biting off too much. But we do want to keep it titrated and tapered off to meet people where they're at.
Wonderful. I'm going to give you the last word on this. We've covered a lot of ground. You've obviously created something really special, and we will put into the show notes for this a special offer for Catholic Men of America. Whether it's a code or a link, we'll figure that out. So make sure you check out the show notes if you're listening. But Drago, back to you. Final words: life, family, faith, holy habits. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? There's a whole nother conversation we can have on the present times of society and eschatologically, right? People, I think anyone listening to this who's responsible for leading their family, leading their teams at work, at business, knows that there's some real challenges, there's some unique challenges, and we need to reflect the light, just like the moon reflects the light from the sun. Like, we need to reflect the light of Christ, and we need more saints. We need holy people. That's how it starts. We have to transform our society. And so, to the extent that you can transform yourself, or really participate in the Spirit's work of transforming you, and you just saying yes, say yes, say yes, that's going to change the world. So that's what we need. We need more men to step up now more than ever, I think. And so that's the encouragement, and we're doing it together. I mean, we need to help each other as brothers. We can't be alone in isolation. That's a recipe for disaster.
Everyone listening, we've been talking with Drago Dimitrov about holyhabits.app. We'll put a bunch of links in the show notes so you can check out Drago and check out the app and some other interesting things. Drago, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your time, and thank you for this great work that you're doing.
Jeff, thank you. Great to connect. God bless you, brother.
Peace be with you.